Keep playing.
Welcome back to another episode of Eagles Weekly. Here are your hosts, Brett, Haas, Mac, and Jack. How we feeling, fellas?
All right, welcome back to Eagles Weekly, powered by Belief Network, presented by Homefield Apparel. Make sure to head on over to homefieldapparel.com for all your throwback gear, and be on the lookout for the new Diamond Collection baseball jerseys dropping Thursday. I'm joined today, as always, by international marketing guru Mac Hutchinson, our ACC athlete Jack Cyberlick, and we have a very special guest, Jessica Stappen of Overtime Chicks. Jessica, did I say that right or did I mess it up?
No, you got it right. You're good.
Let's go. So first on the docket, I mean, the reason we brought Jessica in for this one, if you don't already know, her hockey coverage is some of the best hockey coverage out there. So make sure you throw her a follow and listen to her podcast as well. Phenomenal stuff. National championship in hockey just happened this weekend. Our school was not participating. Our rivals were. Our rivals got absolutely throttled. And that was great. That's my first point. Jess, like what went through your head the whole time? Just happiness?
Yeah, I was just so excited. It was so much fun to watch, to be honest with you.
It's one of those things where it's like, we were talking in the pre-show. It's like our school's not in it. The way that they lost and the way they kind of ended their season was very lackluster and disappointing. To turn around and see your arch rival be in the national championship game, the same game that we were in a year ago, and just the hate watch was on. It was one of the most successful hate watches I've ever been a part of. I was way too vocal on the timeline for someone who had no dog in the fight. Well, I guess I had a bit of a dog in the fight, but it was just all around electric. Yeah,
it was nice to see.
Yeah, especially after all like the BU talk last year with us losing, it was kind of nice because now they can't say anything.
Mm-hmm. Did you see that someone was like, well, we scored 2 more goals than you guys did last year. It's like, okay, you also gave up 4 more. So
exactly.
I think overall, though, I mean, all right. So I guess this is a BC show, right? So like we do want to talk BC. Like we can't just continue to pile on BU as much as we want to. In terms of like, it's never pleasing when like your team's not in it, but that has to be like as close to like pleasing of a result, excuse me, as you're gonna get from like if your school, obviously is not in it. And I think like with the way that BC season ended, like what are your takeaways? Like, what do you feel like was, I guess, the reasoning for kind of like their collapse? Because they went from just absolutely dominating everyone through Hockey East. They get to Northeastern in the Hockey East playoffs, and it was just like completely different team. There was no secondary scoring. I mean, even the big guys weren't really scoring either. It was brutal to watch.
Yeah, I feel like something needs to change. I don't know if it's like a coaching thing or what, but it's like you had like 2 like back-to-back seasons of just like so much talent and you only got a Hockey East championship out of it. So I don't know. Something needs to change though.
Yeah,
I mean it was back-to-back years, like such a front-loaded season. Like the team was so talented, they dominate through, 3 months of that season, and then they just sputter to the finish line. I don't know if that. I never played hockey in my life, but I mean, I can't imagine I don't know how that like structurally how that even happens. Like a team loaded with like last year Cutter Gauthier, this year Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault, Jacob Fowler. Just like how bad they looked against Northeastern this year versus like the middle of the season where they're just like dominating everybody. It's just I can't imagine how it's like not coaching, honestly, because it's the same players, the same guys. It's just like something about the mindset changes, which I starts at the top. But I mean, I don't have an answer for this equation, this question, but yeah, I agree. I don't know. It's something I agree. Something's got to change,
especially when it's kind of like every single big game that they played in besides the one Hockey East tournament last year, they just have not shown up, period.
Yeah. They just like choke in all the big games.
Right. Even the Bentley game was it was an atrocious game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were lucky to win that, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Where did the goalie there just transferred somewhere, didn't he?
Yeah, I think I saw that. I just don't know where.
He went I was kind of hoping he'd come here.
Yeah, especially after we just lost our best goalie.
Mm-hmm.
Jess, welcome to the show. Obviously,
Thank you.
I wanted to get your perspective, just kind of on the whole season, because I feel like a lot of fans, and like I'm coming from maybe the more average fan that like loves that BC dominates hockey, but isn't like a daily follower of the program per se. But it definitely seems like obviously we're disappointed with the year. Like you basically go into the season thinking 3 main tournaments, right? You got the Beanpot, Hockey East, and then of course the NCAAs, and you're thinking, man, we have a good shot.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't foresee it all. Okay, we go 0-3, and just to come out 0-3, like with such a talented team, clearly like stacked with NHL players, clearly, arguably one of the most talented BC teams in its history. What is your perspective on just the results of that, and the status of BC's hockey program and kind of where they go take it from here?
I mean, I feel like it's definitely a coaching thing. I mean, the more I think about it, that has to change, because it's like you said, we had the good players. They've proven that they're good, so it's not that. And I just don't know where we go moving forward, because it's like, you had, like I said, 2 years of just great talent, and then you kind of threw that away, and now you kind of have to kind of almost like do a rebuild, like not a full rebuild, but just kind of like get some like players in the lineup and kind of see where you can go with that, I guess.
Right.
Well, especially when you look at.
Sorry, go ahead, Brett.
No, you go ahead. You were cooking.
Well, I was just gonna say, when your whole like philosophy and way of team building is bringing these young 18-year-old studs that are already drafted that are going to be gone in 2 years, like, I mean, I'm not surprised that we get dominated by like more battle-hardened teams, like veteran teams, when the time comes. Like,
yeah,
you see that in like college basketball too a lot, or more so like, I don't know, when the one and done era was a big thing in the 2010s. Like, like Kentucky would be undefeated, have all these star freshmen, lose to Wisconsin in the national championship. Like when that's like your way of team building, like it's not surprising that you might struggle in big games against more veteran teams, and then you come the off season, you have all these guys going to the NHL or going pro or whatever. So like that way of team building, it just begets tons of roster turnover, which I feel like is not always the best way to build a program. And I think that's like we're kind of seeing the fruits of that for these past 2 seasons,
And especially like we mentioned all these players, arguably the most talented player out of all of them that wasn't even mentioned is Will Smith. Like Will Smith was on the team last year too. And I think a lot of it is kind of a I don't know how to say this. It's damning against them, specifically when these guys are going to the NHL and they're successful in the NHL too. Like Will Smith's having a really good rookie season. I think, this was the window. It was that two-year window where they really had their opportunity. They were right on the doorstep last year. They come back this year, and it really seemed like Ryan Leonard was bigger, faster, and stronger than everybody on the ice. He probably was the best player in college hockey. Like, if they make it to the Frozen Four, he probably wins the Hobie. I mean, they typically give the Hobie to whoever is still in the Frozen Four. For better or worse, that's how it's always gone. But yeah, I mean, to lose the way that they did with the talent that they had, and it's like time after time again, whether it's the Bean Pot, then the Hockey East, and the Hockey East was probably the most egregious out of all of them, in my opinion. To lose to Northeastern like that at home was just absolutely unforgivable. You don't even make it to TD Garden, and then you get the number 1 seed in the tournament. You barely squeak by Bentley, and that was Bentley's biggest game of their program's history. Like, they were more than happy to be there, and they put up a pretty good fight against them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember watching that Bentley game. It was it was a 16 versus a 1 in the NCAA tournament. They're like, man, like, these kids from Bentley, they're hanging in there with the big guys from BC. They're really pushing it to them. And then they scored that goal with a minute left, and they're like, oh, and you really feel for the Bentley. Like, it was just like, it was one of those wins that felt like a loss, It was one of those games where, like, if you don't win that 6-2, you walk away feeling like, yeah, we should have done more. So, like, going from Northeastern to that, to the loss to Denver, it was just like a avalanche that just like really just culminated in epic fashion. Really,
I stayed for the Denver Providence game for the first 2 periods of it, and I left after, like, probably midway through the second period, and I was like, yeah, this team's going to steamroll BC on Sunday. They had no shot. And just, it's kind of like we were talking about on the pregame. It's like they went into that game so psyched out against Matt Davis. Like, they knew they weren't, like, he didn't even have to play mind games with them. He was in their head from the start. And,
for sure.
And it goes back to what you said. It's coaching. If you don't have a strong leadership up top, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, we definitely got outcoached for sure. Because I mean, that Denver coach, he's just like, he can just, like, if something like changes on the other side, like, he knows exactly what to do to just, like, kind of like push back. So yeah, definitely got outcoached.
I feel like we should have the Greg Brown conversation, because I feel like maybe we shouldn't. Maybe the conversation is that is too soon, and like people like are being too brutal about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to get your guys' perspective on that, because I know obviously the chatter and the normal overreaction to like a talented team not performing, similar to like basketball a year ago, right? Is, get rid of the coach and we need to make a move and all these different things. And you saw clearly like there being an outmatch there in a lot of the coaching, but I think that really has to do with just the objective reality is those are more experienced coaches, right? You got Greg Brown, that's clearly a talented coach, but he's been shown in tournaments when it matters, right, to not be clutch, to not put his guys in the best position. So is that one of those things where, I don't know, I guess the conversation might be, how long do we like continue this experiment? Or do you guys think moves need to be made already, even whether it means the staff, or what are your guys' thoughts on that? Because I feel like, you know what, still an incredible program. This isn't like even close to a scorched earth situation, but there clearly needs to be some changes. And I'm just trying to figure out what is the scale and like practical reaction to like for next steps, I guess.
Jess, I'm interested in kind of your thought process here.
I kind of feel like, I don't know, because like he made a good point. Like Greg Brown is a good coach, and that's the thing where I'm kind of like 50-50 on, because it's like he's a good coach, but at the same time, like blowing 2 years of just so much talent, to me, that's what kind of makes me almost be like, okay, maybe a coaching change. But so I'm kind of 50-50, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can like see both ways to go about it.
Yeah, I think I mean, what's this year? It's been 2 years of Greg Brown. Like, I think yes, it's clearly he's underachieved. But I guess he has underachieved with the talent he's been dealt. But at the end of the day, he lost the national championship, lost in the final 8. So I mean, it's not like Max said, scorched earth. I think you need to give, before you even think about having that conversation about moving on with the coach, I think you have to allow him a chance to kind of like learn from his mistakes, learn from his, how he managed his first 2 years. Because I mean, maybe the way to build a championship level college team is not to get all these young guys. Like, maybe you need more veterans. Maybe you need more of a. It's nice to have like the Ryan Letters, the Cutter Gauthiers, the Will Smiths, but I mean,
Yeah,
Eamon Powell's been here forever. He's come along, been a big contributor. Have more guys like that. More guys that have that 130 games under their belt, things like that. So I mean, I think you need to give. I mean, and obviously, next year will be something of a rebuild year. With this was the 2-year window. So I mean, I think you need to give him a bit of grace with how he, in terms of the actual results for next year. But I am interested to see if he is able to adjust his, philosophy around like team building, in-game coaching, and if he can learn and improve as a coach. And if he can't, then maybe like year 4, you start to have that conversation. But I think right now it's important to remember, like, you're 2 years in, he's lost the Natty, lost in the quarterfinals, which isn't ideal with the talent that he's had, but he's got room to grow. I think you need to allow for that, and if he doesn't, then maybe you have that conversation.
Yeah,
he definitely has a little bit of the Earl Grant syndrome, where like he's just a super nice guy, so it's also kind of like hard to be like super overcritical of him and hate on him. Because he is like super nice, especially like in press conferences. Very. And this is his first time as a head coach, right? Like, I don't think he was.
Well, wasn't he just on York staff before this?
Yeah,
I think so.
Right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too, is it's like you kind of do expect the growing pains, and I think like for a guy like Greg Brown, who has gone the U.S. developmental side of just literally just taking all of them and successfully doing that. But you do need the guys like the Mike Posmas and the Will Votes and kind of like those scrappy guys who are 4-year players. Like, they might not be super productive scoring wise, but like you do kind of need that veteran talent, like you were saying, Jack. And I think that it does say something when Ryan Leonard's one of your alternate captains, and he's a sophomore, and fully knowing that he's only here, through his sophomore year. So it's tough. It's definitely a very, very young team. And, you saw it, 4 years ago when they had Matt Baldy and Spencer Knight and all those kids. They also were the number 1 team in the country, and they got absolutely rolled by, St. Cloud in the tournament. And St. Cloud just had a bunch of 4-year players. That's how college sports works, period. It's not just like a college hockey thing. College basketball, it's the same way. College football, it's the same way. You need kids that are actually 4-year type players. And I think, last year too, they did have, a lot more veteran, a more veteran team, to kind of supplement the star power that they had, where this year they were just very dependent. And not for nothing, they were very top 6 heavy, like very top 6 dependent. You look at the rest of, they had Dean Latorno, who didn't score a fucking goal all season.
Did he have 1 point all year?
He had 1 or 2.
Yeah.
He's coming back.
Yeah.
Boston Bruins draft pick.
Shocker.
Yeah. I don't want to pretend it's like a bad thing to when you see like the UAT or like I don't know how they do like recruiting, like they do it by birth year, I think, like the 2008. I don't want to pretend it's like a bad thing to have 6 of the top 10 of those guys, but there's got to be some middle ground where it's like you have like some of those guys and then guys that have been here 4 years. Like, I mean, because clearly just having a team where 80% of your guys are 20 years old or younger is not working, no matter how much talent you have on your team.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's got to be some middle ground there.
Yeah, like having all the talent's like fun to watch and like fun. But I feel like going forward, we should just kind of like do what you just said, like, you know, focus on kind of like more well-rounded, because obviously we've witnessed, you know, all the young talent, you know, doesn't work.
It burns out, I would say, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the regular season's great. You're pumping out these wins, and then you get to crucial playoff games. And it's not even just the tournament. It's like these, you know, the bean pots, the Hockey East tournament, like they just have these like crazy, you know, burnouts. You know, they did it last year in the bean pot too, where they got ran in the opening round. So it's just, there's no real formula to it. You know, I was a little you know, when people were after the bean pot this year and people are saying that Greg Brown can't win the big one. And I'm like, well, he did win the Hockey East last year, but that grace is over, you know, when you get absolutely ran out the door, you know, in all 3 tournaments. Like you can't overlook that anymore. And it's as they're saying, like, it's absolutely coaching. You know, it all starts up there, especially I think in college sports, coaching matters so much more than anything. Like it all starts at the top. You know, it's like you look at like the Bruins or something, maybe the coaching doesn't matter quite as much, but in college sports and for all we talk about BU, like JP Andolfo is a phenomenal head coach. Like he's had them in the Frozen Four, 3 years in a row now. Like nothing to show for it, so sucks to suck, but you know.
Let it throw that dig in there.
Glass houses.
I swear, sometimes I just cannot help myself.
No, I get that. I'm the same way.
Oh God, it's just, it puts a smile on my face. And then you see like the crash outs from their fans, and it's just like, yeah, I mean that was us last year. So
true. So, but it's still so fun just to like see that. In my opinion.
It's very satisfying. And then for some reason, like I just don't get the UMass thing. I need someone to.
I'm so confused with that.
Why did shut up is my thing. Like just go away. I quote tweeted them both. They will not respond to me. I tried getting both of those podcasts from the High Character podcast. I'm like, I'll interact with you. He called Ryan Leonard like a fucking goober or something.
Yeah, did he stiff UMass like when in his recruiting or something?
His brother won a national championship at UMass. But like, sorry, he didn't go. Like, sorry.
I wonder what that's like. I wouldn't know.
Winning a natty.
Yeah. I was kidding. I do wonder though, like we talk about, you know, the importance of having vet presence and those young, you know, those high draft pick quality guys. Like, I want like realistically, I mean, I know, you know, we see the transfer portal, how that has changed college sports and football and basketball, especially. But I mean, is that a realistic goal versus set? Like, is the way to go about that just recruit guys that you know are going to be that you want to be 4 years players, and some guys that you want to be that you know are those top end guys, or is it to kind of, you know, try to recruit those blue chip guys and then supplement that with the vets through the transfer portals? So like, I am curious how Greg Brown will go about this, and if he tries to approach it in that way, because I think drawing like a comparison to basketball, I often think like BC hockey. BC is kind of like the Duke of college hockey, like the Duke basketball. Like the way that Duke has done in the past couple of years is they have all these like blue chip guys, and they bring in guys from the transfer portal. Guys like this year was this guy from Purdue, Mason Gillis, guy from some mid major, Shion James. Like they have that veteran presence that they got from the portal. So I wonder how that is going to work out this offseason. And I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about kind of like what that team building like will realistically kind of look like this offseason.
Yeah, I don't know. Jess, have you heard anything? Because the only discourse that I've seen in that people are just pissed that Greg Brown and the staff haven't got anyone. And apparently like a lot of the big transfers have already committed.
Yeah, most of them have. I think Matt Godowski is still left. He was a Hobie Baker nominee. And then I saw today before we got on here that BC's interested in Ryan Comey. I cannot pronounce this. Comey, I think. And he's a UNH guy, but that's
Okay.
all I've heard. I haven't like heard anything else though.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I'm remembering, because I saw that too. I think he was like their leading scorer, but
Yeah. And he's a 6th round pick of LA, so that could be good.
I mean, at least we know for an absolute fact that we have a 1st round draft pick on the team next year too.
Oh yeah.
Is that Dean?
Like,
I don't know.
Like, yeah, Dean.
Okay.
Dean.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, good.
Okay, great. That's just so we're on the same page here.
Listen, he can't get worse. Can we all agree on that? He's not going to get worse. I mean, maybe
I'll take the over on his points, over 1.5 for the season next year. I will say I will go in that. Beyond that, jury's out. But
I see the potential, but I mean, I just don't know if it's gonna happen. You know?
I mean, did the Bruins draft him because he's just like a big fucking guy? And
I think so.
Yeah.
They were like reeling on like the big guys last season, so I feel like kind of why they got him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you saw it this year with the Bruins when they're just way too big and way too slow, and it's not how the NHL works anymore. Like the Bruins would be so nasty if this was like 2003.
Yeah,
like if this was like if this was the early 2000s, we would be like the best team in the league. But it's 2025 and we suck.
Yeah. Like we did the complete opposite of what the current NHL is like doing.
Sweeney's like, we're throwing it back. We're throwing it back to my playing days.
You guys want to change? Well, this is.
And then he's like, I got something for you. We're gonna draft a kid in the 1st round. Who probably like the whole thing with Dean was that he was here a year too early. I guess like he shouldn't have been in college hockey yet. He's like, I'm taking this kid now.
Yeah. Of course.
He's gonna cook.
Hopefully.
Someone else talk in the meantime. I gotta look this up because I'm pretty sure that I gotta see, but I think Jacob Fowler had more points than him. I want to see before.
Yeah, he did. I'm pretty sure.
Right?
Yeah, I saw that.
He got a couple assists or something this year. Good for him. Yeah, I'll be honest. I've not been paying much attention to this offseason. Is Fowler? Is he a sure thing gone? Is he signed?
Yeah, he just signed. He
signed, and then Perot's on the Rangers.
But
Leonard's on.
They fucked Perot and benched him.
I'm so mad about that. Like they played him 2 games and then they just completely benched him. And I'm like, what do you guys have to lose? Like you're not going to make the playoffs. So what's going on?
Develop your player. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Then you got the whole other end of the spectrum where Ryan Leonard's like hanging out with Ovi and Circle.
Mm-hmm.
That was an unbelievable video. Like him.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Like,
that was cool.
I think I've seen a better way to start your NHL career. Like that was
he hadn't started it yet. That was his first game.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Who's going to be in net next year, Jess, or is that not figured out yet?
I have
Is
probably
that not a clear?
Probably Korik.
Yeah,
The
Corey.
back. Yeah.
Unless they, get someone.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he did play. He played against Providence, was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's decent. I mean, you're never gonna. I don't think we're gonna see another
Yeah.
But
Right.
That's the thing about Jacob Fowler was really fucking good.
yeah, he saved you in so many games.
Mm-hmm. Like you're not gonna see like that level of talent again for a while, which is funny too because we said that a couple of years ago when Spencer Knight went to the Panthers, but so Dean did have more points than Jacob Fowler, by the way. Dean had 3 assists. Jacob Fowler had 2.
Well, that's good.
Hang the banner.
Yeah.
Good job, Dean.
Oh my god.
His first goal is going to be awesome because people love him on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a good following.
Yeah.
It's like an ironic kind of
yeah, for sure.
The kid that gets in like the Abe of the team, but
yeah.
But
even at the games, like whenever he has the puck, it's like the crowd is insane.
He's
got to
put one in. He's just for the vibes. He has to.
Yeah.
I love when people they're like based on the analytics, like he contributes, and I'm like, what the fuck does he contribute? What is he? He passes good. He doesn't even get assists. What are you talking about?
Really, very crisp passes in the seams. That must be it.
They're like, hey, he skates really well. I'm like, where? To like where the puck is not?
Exactly.
He's like, I'm helping by staying the fuck away from the puck. Like that, you're welcome. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't. People put like these like report cards up. They're like based on like he has a lot of yellow. I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, a lot of yellow.
He's not all red. He's not all.
They're like he's actually not as ass as you think he is. It's like, no, he is though. Like, there's the thing. I'm pretty sure if you're a fucking forward and you're like listen, I didn't play hockey either, but I know for a fact the point of hockey is to like score, right? Like forwards, like wingers score. Like that's what you do. And like he doesn't do that.
I feel like a lot of people kind of had too high of expectations because seeing his stats for St. Andrews, I feel like people thought he was just going to come in and like just blow everybody away. But I mean, St. Andrews, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean that, and like I think people just fell in love with the fact that he was a Bruins draft pick and his size. Like people saw the size and they thought that he was just going to bully people, and then he was a traffic cone. So I mean that's good. Maybe he should play on the basketball team. Like, have we had that conversation? Like, are people ready to have that talk? Like,
same season, dude. Those logistics would be crazy.
No, well, quit hockey because he's not doing that good.
I do find it pretty funny how we're just kind of piling on hockey right now when we're going to be talking about our 7-5 football team and our 13-19 basketball team to end it on the second half of this episode. But I think let's be nice to Dean. Let's be nice to Dean. I think Brett, you're being a little too hard on him.
Listen.
Are you guys hopeful for next season? Like, what is to like close out the hockey thing, like for looking into next season, if that's like even reasonable to like project already? Like, do you see it being like a significant like step down as far as like talent and like expectations going to the season, or you think the expectations are still this is like a BC hockey team, we should be able to compete at every tournament, or like what is the outlook there? And then like I don't know, what are the thoughts on going forward into next season?
I mean, I think like the roster is, I mean, it's the offseason is so brand new. Like they haven't made any moves in terms of like bringing kids in. So it's really hard to forecast that other than just knowing like the BC hockey brand itself, like you have to expect that they're gonna compete for I mean the top half of Hockey East, not to mention like they're pair wise at least, like they should make the tournament, at least like compete to be in the tournament.
Like you said, like if BC's the Duke of hockey, right? It's like even a down year for Duke, they're a top 25 team, right? So is that kind of how you kind of see it?
Yeah,
I agree. I feel like it's obviously not going to be like as good as this season, but we're not like totally out of it.
Yeah, it's gonna suck not going to the season. Kind of thinking you're like going to be the perennial number one team in the nation all season,
right?
But like when those expectations aren't as high, you're not going to be able to take every Hockey East game for granted the way you could kind of this year, with the exception of BU, Providence on the road, whatever. But I think it'll have it'll be a good chance for Greg Brown to prove himself as an actual coach, and to see what he can get out of a non-A tier roster. I think not being like that team in the NHL, it'll lead to some scrappy wins, some excitement about some big time win. There'll be like a lot of juice behind BU, like does BU still, of course. So I mean, if they make the tournament next year, they win a game in the tournament, like I think it's definitely possible, and I think it's gonna be there's exciting if they do. So I think there's definitely the opportunity for an exciting team, even though they're not going to be maybe like one of the top 4 teams in the country. But it's just going to be a different feeling this year.
I feel like that's just I agree with you, Jack. I feel like that's just a great opportunity there to kind of come at it from a different perspective. And like also, instead of being like you're a number one every week, you're the favorite every week, you could have like a less pressure situation, or like more of it. You wouldn't be an underdog, but more of an underdog mentality where you're going in and it's not expected that you win the Bean Pot. It's not like a disappointment if you don't win the Hockey East. It's like you go in being like, okay, this is a fair fight. Let's give it our best. And, and honestly, the biggest thing that we want to see is not that you can maintain your number one ranking throughout the year. We don't care. It's like we want to see them win tournaments. Let's see them finally get the Bean Pot back. Let's see them win the Hockey East again, and get the job done. Like that's what you want to see it for Greg Brown. So you look at that being like, that's a great opportunity. And there's like the less pressure actually makes that even more possible for him.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot about Greg Brown as a coach next year for sure. Not that kind of roster.
That's exactly what I was thinking in my head, was like, you're going to learn a lot about him as a coach, and, kind of whether you're behind him or not. So I guess time will tell. BC underdog hockey. That's we're not underdogs, we're under God. Just remember that.
Oh my
under God.
Oh my God.
What a quote.
It's pretty good though.
Anything else on hockey? I mean, I could go all night, but
see, you could go all night on this. I only got about 38 minutes in me of hockey talk.
I don't got any more. If Jess wants to close it out and like give her last thoughts on anything, or you, Brett.
Well, I just want to thank Jess for even coming on. This has been awesome.
Yeah,
this is long overdue, Jess. You're gonna come on again. We need you to come on.
It's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Make sure and let everyone know where they can find your stuff.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Overtime Chicks, and I release episodes every Tuesday.
Awesome. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks, Jess. Nice meeting you.
So I was gonna say let's jump into hoop, but I feel like I'm gonna be super negative. Just oh wait.
Are there major updates for Hoops?
Jacoby Robinson is into the transfer portal. I can never fucking say that word correctly. Transfer portal.
Oh, I was literally gonna talk about that on this podcast. So
all right,
I'm glad that
let's get into it.
That came
Cook
out.
King.
I'm glad that came out.
Cook King. Why he looked bad?
It's not. Honestly, he developed since last year. You could tell that in the spring, but he's so below the other three quarterbacks.
He's just QB4,
and he wasn't even getting, like, honestly, guys, he wasn't even getting snaps in practice. So just like the other three quarterbacks were so more talented and so much more progressed that it was obvious. So you got Dylan Lonergan, you got Grayson James, obviously,
Shaker,
and then Shaker Rising.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
I'll want to take a deep dive into Shaker later, but yeah, you want me to just
yeah, you listen.
I'll give
I want you to be speaking all your glory. Just get in your fucking bag right now.
I have lots of takes, so like if I forget anything, I'll hopefully get into this later into the podcast. But I think from like a zoom out lens, I went into the spring at the beginning, and obviously the big storyline is this competition between Dylan Lonergan and Grayson James, right? I went in 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, looking at it, and I think we all could agree, the media there, the fans, like definitely me personally, this is going to be a competition, man. We might not know the spring, we might not know the summer. This could be like a legit competition. Like they're both pretty much balling out, having being super competitive. I leave to go on my global trip like for a couple weeks, and then I came back, my sabbatical. Good stuff, and when I got back to Boston about a week and a half ago, I go to the first practice I could, and I'm telling you guys, this competition took a turn in development, and I think this is my personal opinion. I'm not like trying to create controversy, because I think from a BC perspective, I love Grayson James. Everyone I think is on the Grayson James, like, who isn't a fan of Grayson James? Just the loyalty and how he was able to step in there last week, incredible. And I still think the perspective and the right perspective to have, if you don't have like more insider information, is okay. It makes sense if there's like any competition at all. Let's go with Grayson, because he's your guy. He obviously has more experience in the offense. Let's go with him. You can always bring in Lonergan if like it doesn't work out. Like that's clearly the right move. So I totally understand why people are like, that's just the right move. Like I wouldn't. It doesn't make any sense to be talking about Lonergan, really. I mean, I like that there's a competition, but no. It's a week and a half ago, and then the last 4 to 5 practices until this past Saturday, which is the last practice. Me personally, I think Lonergan's ahead, and I don't think it's as close as it was, previous 5 weeks. I think he's significantly more talented. I think he's got more natural presence in the pocket. He's got a significantly better release. I think Bill O'Brien sees that as well. And I think they're trying to keep this, closer to the chest. And I could be wrong on this, because I understand that perspective I just told about before with Grayson, and I love Grayson. But I personally think that Lonergan is going to be the guy. I don't know when that announcement will be, or maybe they'll go like later into the summer. But I personally think right now, out of the spring practice, that Dylan's going to be QB1. Now, again, that's just an opinion. This is just based off just me looking. There's no like outside influence on this. There's not like he was getting more playing time. I'm telling you, each 3 of these quarterbacks got the same amount of snaps for the most part in practice, and they're dueling it out. Now, that is Dylan Lonergan in the Grayson story. I love how much Grayson's, by the way, gotten so much better than last year. Even he's developed. that's why this is even more of an important, like what I'm saying is Grayson got better. Dylan like came in like and has like blown me away as far as how prepared he's been and how much he's kind of been able to pick up Bill O'Brien's offense. Before I kind of go further into like more of the quarterback stuff, what are you guys, if you guys have any thoughts on that, and if you, I'll just hear like your reaction on that, because again, this is just my personal opinion on that quarterback competition. I think as of right now, it stands Dylan's in front, and Grayson's like incredible. But I will just end on this. This is the most quarterback depth we've had since Matt Ryan. Like there's no if, ands, or buts about this. We're 3 deep here. I don't think we've ever been 3 deep. I don't think in Matt Ryan we were 3 deep. I think we had like a quarter behind Matt Ryan.
We had Chris Crane.
Chris Crane. I think we've never been this deep. And you'll understand that even more when I talk about Shaker in a little bit. But this is the most depth we've had. Bill O'Brien, this is his thing. It's very exciting that we have like this quarterback room right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing with Lonergan, especially when he came in here, it was his job to lose, and I think that the hierarchy of it is that Grayson was going to get a shot based off last year, and he absolutely deserved that shot. Continues to deserve to get that shot. There's no bad situation here, which is awesome. It's not going to be one of those things where it's like Lonergan comes in and he's super underwhelming and okay, I guess we'll stick with Grayson. We'll stick with what we got, or, something like that, or, oh, we're giving it to Lonergan because he's the Alabama kid, but he's really not as good as, as advertised. What it sounds like to me is that Lonergan is very much a Alabama transfer, and it sounds like Grayson is exactly what he was last year and has improved on that, and he's showing that last year wasn't a fluke in any way. And then with the Shaker aspect, it's like you got a recruit in here who's proven to start to live up to the hype that we all kind of a little bit jokingly gave him last year. I think we all just kind of love the name and love the locks and kind of love just the fact that he had a lot of monster games in high school. But it really does sound like all 3 quarterbacks are kind of living up to the bill, and it's not really a situation that we've seen in the past where it's like, yeah, we're we've
never seen this. We've never seen this. There are 3 Power 4 quarterbacks on this team right now. Obviously, some are more developed than others, but
I don't know if we've ever had that.
I don't think I've never seen it in my lifetime.
Not at the level that it seems like it is.
And just to talk real briefly about Robinson, because he just made that announcement online on social media. It was clear. The nice thing about Bill O'Brien is it seemed like after spring practice last Saturday, he was going to sit down with the positional groups and tell them, hey, this is where you're at, because the transfer portal does open on Wednesday. So just like man to man, he's telling kids, hey, this is where you fall on the depth chart. If you want to, if you're 5th, 4th down the line, take your chance. And I think for Robinson, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was pretty obvious he was going to be the 4th quarterback. The 3 above him are so talented and like more developed, I'd say, and further along than him. Even though, and I'd say this to Robinson, the last 2 to 3 years he's been here at BC, he's been super, developed. He's gotten so much better. But just think like how much better he's gotten over the last 2 to 3 years. And I hope he, finds an incredible place to go. He still was so below the other 3. So that again shows you just how much depth here. And then we'll get into recruiting later, but BC's trying to pick up 2 more quarterbacks. Already picked up one for 2026. So you're looking at like just, not only right now, but the future, the most depth and talent we've ever had at quarterback. And it's awesome, man.
Must make practice fun to watch too.
Yeah, I'm jealous, Mac. I wish I was there.
Yeah, practice. Just to talk about practice real quick. I think the practices, the spring ball, again, it's just a professional. Like I've said this before, it's a professional program now. It's an NFL system. It's everything how they operate, NFL operation. It's really cool. I know we didn't get a spring game this year, but if you guys were there at these spring practices with all these recruits, hundreds of recruits every practice, lining
Really?
like, guys, I'm telling you, on Saturdays, it was hard for me to find places to even watch them play because there's so many recruits and families.
Really?
The atmosphere was so incredible, and you can just see the genius behind Bill O'Brien. And, if I bring recruits into this very intimate situation where they get to see behind the scenes, see the practices, that is going to get us more recruits and better relationships with these families than having them come to an empty alumni in the middle of spring where it's probably snowing, right? So that was like cool to see him develop that, because that's something new. And then just being able to see those practices, they're super intense. And again, everything was to a T, the way it was operated. So again, the atmosphere every time, especially on Saturdays when they would do like scrimmages, that was like just incredible atmosphere to see, as far as for a recruiting perspective, but also the players. They're just balling out this year.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, yeah, Jack, do you have anything to say before I jump in?
No, I was just going to say, I agree with you, Mac, that or Brett, or I forget who said it, but the right.
If it was a good point, then it was me.
Okay, thanks, Brett. No, like the philosophy going into this QB competition, I think was always, if it's going to be a competition, but if there is kind of sense of doubt, I think it's the smart move. It would be the smart move to opt for Grayson when you have Lonergan here with I think 3 years of eligibility.
Yeah,
and Lonergan, he's been the third. Like he's probably played against like Sam Houston State. It went up 63-0 for Alabama. So I mean,
yeah,
I do take some of the things I hear about him. I try to take with a grain of salt because he's, game experience means, a lot as well, which,
sure.
Grayson James had. There's all these stat heads dropping like the most efficient quarterbacks against Power 4 offenses. Grayson James is right up there with them. Mm-hmm. So I do take a lot of it with a grain of salt, considering what Grayson has actually done in games for us under Bill O'Brien. But I mean, if Lonergan is just blowing him away in practice, not blowing him away, if he's just clearly, head and shoulders above him as a quarterback, then, it's a tough conversation to have with James and with, fans who watched him step up in a tough situation last year. But I mean, you just can't not give it to clearly the better quarterback. And if that's Lonergan, then it's Lonergan, and that's it. I think an interesting aspect here will be to see what Grayson James does in the coming weeks in terms of the portal. Like, does he stick around, knowing that this is his last year of eligibility, and he has really good tape, and he could maybe compete for a starting job elsewhere, or does he stick it out? Does he say, you know what, I came in not even halfway, 2/3 of the way through the season last year, and I found a way to prove myself. I'm just going to stay ready, just like last year. I think that'll be interesting to follow. So I think, I totally agree, Mac. The state of the quarterback room is very, very positive with the 3 guys that we have, and it looks positive for 3-4 seasons to come, especially with some of the recruits you'll touch on later. But I mean, it's a tough conversation to have. But if Lonergan is the better quarterback, clearly, then it's got to be him.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment there, Jack. I think that is the situation. I think, and again, I could be completely wrong on this. This is, again, a personal opinion on the situation. But I think if you have a situation from Bill O'Brien's perspective where a quarterback, there's one quarterback with a lot of experience, and you can probably have more confidence in that, and maybe even understanding the offense as of right now. But then you have another quarterback, less experienced, but like is clearly better. Not saying like he's light years better, but he's clearly the more talented. And
more talented, yeah.
And there's more upside. Bill O'Brien's going to go with that. And then you also think about the political reasons of it too. Lonergan's his guy. He recruited him at Alabama. He brought him here to BC. You know, he didn't recruit or bring Grayson here. So that's the other aspect to it. And then you briefly mentioned like the portal and potentially him leaving. It's funny, like I probably was alone on this island after Saturday's practice, but I honestly was internally thinking, man, if Bill is sitting down with these positional groups, especially the quarterback room, after Saturday, probably on Sunday, and saying, hey, if he's saying Lonergan year 1, Grayson year 2, Shaker year 3, Robinson year 4, and like tells them like how much they've developed and where they all sit, I was thinking, oh, well, like, would Grayson think about entering the portal if that was the situation? Like, is that possible? And then I got some insider information about like, okay, there has been some talk about a quarterback in that room entering the portal. And I thought, man, is that potentially Grayson James? But I'm glad that Robinson made the announcement today because that was the obvious choice. And when I heard that rumor, I was like, okay, it's definitely Robinson. If anyone was watching those practices, objectively, Robinson wasn't even getting like snaps. Everyone else was. So I'm glad Robinson put himself in that situation to, you know, find better opportunities. But I think, you know, this quarterback room, like you said, it's all positive. The only negative is just your heart and feelings. If Lonergan ends up being named QB1, you just feel for Grayson James because he's such an incredible guy. His his family is incredible. He's been so loyal to the program. But even if he did stay at BC and was like the backup, like, you know, he would be the backup and like he'd probably have opportunity at some point to perform too under O'Brien. But just to flesh out the quarterback room, one more thing, I have to say, I tweeted this out after Saturday's practice. There's so many standout players, and I can get into those a little later in the podcast, but my number one standout player was Shaker Rising. So, I wanted to make this point because obviously I've been the guy like talking about Dylan Lonergan, but like for me, the biggest takeaway from this spring practice wasn't even my opinion of, I think Lonergan might be ahead of James right now. The number one thing I took away from the spring practice was actually Shaker Rising. You guys, this is a kid that should still be in high school. He should probably be like, you know, at prom right now. He's a true freshman. He has taken just as much snaps in these scrimmages and in practices and just as much drives as Shaker and as Dylan Lonergan and Grayson James in these practices in spring ball. And not only that, his presence in the pocket, his confidence out there, his decision making. There's one point Saturday, I think he had 4 or 5 touchdowns. He was the best performer of the Saturday practice.
Really?
And he was incredible to watch. Every decision he was making was incredible. So you're just thinking, this is a true freshman. I have never seen a true freshman be at this point in his development where he's at. Like, it's incredible to be that he's a third quarterback on this team is unbelievable to even think about. I mean, talking about Shaker Rising, whoever QB1 is this year will be in competition for that spot next year. Like, I am convinced of that.
Will he presumably redshirt this year, so he'll be a freshman again?
That would definitely be what they're trying to do. Unless, like, God forbid, something happened and he needed to.
That's crazy.
Even if he wanted to develop a little bit in some blowout games,
4 games.
In 4 games, he'd still be able to get the red shirt. So he'd definitely be redshirted with 4 years of eligibility next year. But I'm telling you guys, the talent of this kid, but not just the talent, it's his like body language. I was watching him from like warm-ups all the way to like drills into the scrimmage where he got like significant amount of the drives, because what they were doing in scrimmage is if you scored a touchdown, the quarterback would get the ball back and you'd be able to go on another drive. So Shaker did 3 or 4 times like in a row. Really? I'm telling you, the talent on this kid, but not just the talent, the maturity of this young true freshman and his body language and how he gets people in the huddle and how he commands the offense for a kid that's just learning everything for the first time. Incredible. the fact that he chose to enroll early, he was here for the bowl game. He's been able to.
Yeah, so he's like a high schooler still, basically.
Yeah, and that he's like in high school, should be in his senior year in high school, and is deciding to do all these things. I mean,
yeah,
he's the most ahead of the like ball than anyone we've seen in this BC football program in like a long
interesting.
time. Yeah, that is my biggest takeaway from the spring ball, and it's crazy to think even in the quarterback discussion. My biggest takeaway isn't even Lonergan might be leading this quarterback thing. It's that Shaker Rising is that talented and is that developed. Again, I don't like this is again my personal opinion. I think even some people in the media were like, "Mac, you got to chill out on the Shaker thing." But I'm like, I'm seeing with my own eyes, guys. Did you just not just watch him like touchdown in the back of the end zone to Ty Lockwood? You know, like he's doing all these things as a true freshman. Like.
Not even a true freshman.
Yeah, it's incredible to see, you know? So that's my biggest takeaway. I want your thoughts on that because, I mean, I am a huge Shaker believer right now. And to see the upside and potential of him, you know, at BC is like the most exciting thing that I took away from spring ball.
So I do have a question, but before I ask, I just want to update you and say that Sedan just made an incredible diving catch with like the bases loaded to end the inning. So socks up, 6-2 after 4. Just wanted to give you.
We got to go to a game soon, by the way.
Yeah, yes, we do. Absolutely. I wish Jack, you're still in PA, right?
Yeah, I might be coming Monday. And saying that week.
Okay.
TBD.
Let's sync the schedule so we can all go to a game.
TBD. I'll let you guys know.
Please,
our business meetings at Fenway Park.
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Write this one off.
Yeah.
In the org, last year, I recruited Mac to join the podcast at a game last year in the Aura Club. We had a great time.
This is business meeting.
Yeah, we'll have a business call.
Yeah, I want to talk about Shaker for a little bit because.
Real quick, before you ask, I just want to ask before I forget, Mac. In terms of Shaker, his body size is he a big kid? That's all I wanted to ask. I'm sorry, Jack.
Not like Matt Ryan big, but like he's like I think he's like 6 foot or something like that.
He's listed as 6'1", which makes me think he's 5'11".
He's tall. He's not going to be jumping over the line like Tommy to see the you know, DBs or anything like that.
Okay, that's all we care about.
Perfect size for a quarterback and quick.
Okay,
and able to run out of the pocket, throw outside the pocket. Like again, has all the tools at his disposal. Yeah,
awesome, Jack. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder there.
No, of course. You know, size matters. So I'm glad you touched on that. Don't let anyone tell you different. Mac, all my information about this kid, Shaker Isaac, is coming through you. So I really appreciate you painting this full picture for both of us.
Yeah.
Can you realistically see a world where a year from now, the three of us are on this pod again, we're on episode 77 or something, and Dylan Lonergan had balled out for us last year, tough to see Grayson go. Could you see a world where it is a real QB1 competition between Shaker and Lonergan for 2026, or do you think it's more of a bit longer term than that in terms of him like contributing in a real way?
I'm like super bullish on Shaker to the point where I'm very confident that whoever the QB1 that's named this year will be competing with Shaker next year. Like I'm very confident on that. I think he's that talented because just based on where he's at, even right now as a true freshman, he keeps progressing, and he doesn't even know the offense yet. He just seems intelligent out there. He seems confident out there. You know, there's potential for him to win that. Like, I'm getting so ahead of myself with these projections here, but I think for sure something I can say he'll be competing for that spot next year. That's definitely the takeaway for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And presumably, it seems I know we have that dude Furion from the class of 2027 committed, and it seems like we have a couple of 2026 guys.
Yeah,
in the pipeline.
really dive in.
If you want to talk about those guys.
Yeah, let's dive in deeper into the quarterback room, because not only do we have 3 of the best quarterbacks in the most depth we've ever had right now, but just looking ahead, we have a lot of quarterback news in the recruiting trail this week. So we did have one not so good thing, which was Corin Berry going to Purdue. So he was committed to BC, end up uncommitting and going to Purdue. But the nice thing is,
was he the first commit that they got, right, for this class
for 26? Yeah, he was one of the. Yeah, he was like a long time ago. I think he's been like committed to like 10 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
what's
that
he
was
Purdue. Like what's going on over what's going on there?
But I will say the nice thing about that was, again, shout out to Dibs, Jonathan DiBiasco, the quarterbacks coach at BC. He's been like the man for all this stuff, like behind the scenes. And just even Corin Berry, and you saw even like his dad, just that relationship. He's so good at building these relationships with these kids. And there's only good things to say. I think, again, it could just be a matter of Purdue just threw a lot of money at him. We have no idea what that situation is. But maybe at the same frame, him going to Purdue opened, I think, doors for really making the sales pitch to these other quarterbacks. So you had DJ Bordeaux, who played in Georgia and played in a lot of these really, really high level, high school football leagues. DJ Bordeaux committed to BC. He's like a 6'2", 6'3" quarterback, incredibly talented, has an incredible offer list, like Ole Miss, like down the line, like a really, really talented kid. So you got your 26 quarterback right there. And then you have Furion, like you're saying, Jack, potential him. And he's one of those quarterbacks that Bill O'Brien's going after that could be a game changer. And we talked about Shaker, right? This could be another Shaker type, situation, but even more. They've been comparing Furion to the number one quarterback recruit in that class, based on his performances in camps lately. So that's an incredible thing to watch. And he seems to be one of those kids that might announce in the next few days or the next week or two. There's major competition there, obviously. I think like every school is probably in the game trying to like look at him or has looked at him. But again, Bill O'Brien, you can see what he's doing with his quarterback room. He's the guy. He might be one of the better quarterback developers, not only in college football, but in all of football. So you can see how this is such an attractive spot and how much if we see the impact of this year, how much this could be a game changer for the program. So again, you got 226 recruits there. You already have one committed, DJ Bordeaux. You possibly have another one that is getting compared to the number one recruit in the 2026 class. So yeah, right now, Bill O'Brien's cooking. And I think as of right now, this 26 class, which he's been able to lock down majority of the New England recruits, every New England recruit he's gone after, he's been able to either get commit or still targeting. He hasn't lost one really yet. This has top 25, class potential here. And you're going to see this over the next couple of weeks. You have the transfer portal opening this week, and then you got official visits in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So in those official visits at the end of this month, you're going to start seeing like 2 to 3 probably every week, making announcements. So you're really going to be able to see this 25 class and everyone they're targeting. They're targeting high targets, guys. We have not seen the targets before that, Hafley wasn't going after these targets. Adazio wasn't able to land these targets. Like everything.
Adazio couldn't go after these targets.
Exactly. That's what's so great that, like, when we're talking about, though, Bill O'Brien's recruiting, Adazio talked about building that wall around New England. Then Hafley talked about building that wall around New England. But Bill O'Brien so far has been the only one that's been able to do it. And everyone in New England, they just landed the number one recruit in New Hampshire. It's not even just Massachusetts. They just got an offensive lineman out of the number one recruit out of New Hampshire.
I saw that. He looks very good. He looks very big.
And that's when we talk about the wall around New England. Like everyone he's been targeting, and the ones that he hasn't got that are in the top 10 in New England, he didn't go target. Like the ones that aren't going to other schools, those are the ones he's not even targeting. So like everyone he's been targeting in this he's been able to land, and that's everything when we're talking about showing the attractive situation that he's projecting, but then also represents for BC going forward.
That's incredible.
Yeah, when we talk about the wall around, sorry, just real quick. When you talk about the wall around New England, I was always kind of skeptical about it with Bill, especially when he started, because we heard it with Adazio, we heard it with Halfley. But I mean,
yeah,
I'm looking at this 2026 recruiting class on my other screen, and outside of Bordeaux, I mean, it's number 1 player in Connecticut, number 3 player in Massachusetts, number 2 player in New York, I guess, but number 5 in Mass, number 6 in Mass, number 5 in Connecticut, number 1 in New Hampshire, number 8 in Mass, number 10 in Mass. Like, the wall is being built,
and that's before official
in front of our eyes, and presumably there will be more. So it's definitely an exciting time in terms of recruiting.
With the transfer portal opening up, do you foresee them going after people? Like, do you think they're going to make additions? Is there any specific group?
Let's talk about the roster real quick, or the groups real quick. I'd say that'll get you kind of like to understand like what they need to get in the portal. The strengths clearly are, I would say, most units, guys. This is the most depth we've had at groups in a very long time. So the secondary,
Mac, I was looking at the agenda, and you have under strengths most units.
Yeah,
which you love to see.
Write them all out, but
most units.
Secondary,
it's like betting terms.
Yeah, most units. Put a bunch of units on it. The secondary is incredible. That's been incredible to watch. Not only just the guys that you would think would be balling out, like Max Tucker, and we haven't even seen Amari Jackson come back yet. It hasn't been them; it's been the freshmen, like Cunningham and all these guys. Like the secondary,
and that wasn't supposed to be necessarily a strength.
No, but clearly this whole spring ball has been a strength. And then talking about depth, like running backs, so much depth. You got, obviously you got, who's the
Turbo?
You got Turbo, right? You got
shit.
Yeah, so
Jordan
you have
Mack.
Turbo, you got Broom returning. You also have like these incredible
Jordan McDonald.
You got Jordan McDonald.
Jordan Mack.
You also have people that haven't even come to BC yet that might be able to make an impact, like Bo, who's that number 1 recruit out of Massachusetts that they recruited.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
He's one of those kids that people think he's going to be able to make immediate impact as a true freshman. So there's incredible.
He broke the state record. For rushing,
most rushing yards, like by far ever.
Yeah.
So you have the running backs is huge depth, wideouts incredible depth. Obviously Reed Harris, obviously Lewis, our guys. And I'll dive into a little bit more of them, but like they're balling out like crazy. VJ Wilkins has been one of the talks. There are a lot. VJ Wilkins has been a lot of other people's like standout player. Like,
does he go by Rocket?
Yeah, Rocket Man. He's been incredible.
Rocket Wilkins.
He's so quick, twitchy, fast. VJ, you might see him back there on kickoffs too. Like this guy is like something to watch.
Is he a transfer or is he a incoming freshman?
Yeah, he transferred.
Yeah, he's like Campbell, right?
Yeah, he transferred from Campbell.
Like that.
He's been like the talk of spring ball. Like he's just been balling out.
I gotta say too, like first of all, shout out AJ Black. We're all huge AJ Black fans in the AJ Black business. Have a lot of stock in the AJ Black world. When a lot of those kind of transfers were coming through from like the lesser schools, and I was DMing with him about it, and he put it in like such a good perspective of like this fan base freaks out when they see like those lesser, type of schools, as opposed to like, the Power 4 schools. And he's like,
yeah, totally do.
If you're mid at a Power 4 school, you're probably going to be mid here too. So, he really put it in perspective of just kind of like, this is the type of transfers that you want and should get excited about,
Yeah.
which is really
No, I
encouraging.
agree. I agree with his take on this. We actually talked briefly about that Saturday. I got to see AJ on Saturday at practice.
Love AJ.
It's that take of like, why would you want a 4 or 5 star from Alabama that's never played? Or you could take a guy from Campbell who's completely balling out and like his tape is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And he's played a couple seasons and just dominated. Yeah, give me that guy because he can perform at the powerful level and get shit done. So again, I think every unit, I would say this is probably the better way to understand the depth of this roster is that I think there's depth at every positional unit besides the linebacker and the defensive line. So when you talk about the linebacker position, that's mostly due to injury. And again, we weren't able to because we have 4 guys that are injured that probably would be your first and second team. And then you even had what's his face who was actually practicing. He ended practice earlier last week too. So the linebackers are just like, we need to get at least one. When we talk about the transfer portal, you need to get at least one. I'm thinking you might even want to get 2. Like if there's the thing is I think that's definitely going to happen. You see a lot of linebackers entering the transfer portal. I think Bill's going to be able to pick up a few there. So linebackers the number 1 need. And then when we talk about the defensive line, again, obviously losing Donovan is a big deal. So you're thinking about the edge. But I liked what I was seeing from the defensive line. Honestly, the last couple practices, they were competing with the offensive line at a high level. The edges like Hutchins, Q, they're doing really well and developing that. But they're not, obviously it's gonna like I talked about Tim Lewis earlier in spring about this. It's not gonna be one guy. You can't replace Donovan. It's gonna be a combination of a few players and developing that.
Is Okapala still on the team?
Yes. Yeah. He's been he's been he's been performing really well. But again, I think the big standout for me was Q Hutchins for the defensive edge. They've been doing it. But again, I think in the line, if you want to pick up another defensive edge or another edge, that would be huge for depth because again, they have guys, they have starters, they don't necessarily have depth there. Linebacker. Okay. The only other thing that I put in there that might have potential is tight ends. Now we do have good tight ends, like Ty Lockwood is one of my.
I was gonna ask you about him. Yeah. That was gonna be my next.
Obviously, you have Jeremiah Franklin, so you have good tight ends. But the thing is, the depth after Franklin and the depth after Ty Lockwood, they're good players that have been playing really well in practice, but they don't have the size. So when you talk about you can't teach size, like these guys are balling out and they're doing their best, but like there's a lack of size there. And the way that Bill O'Brien does his sets, and if he has any empty sets with 2 linebackers or 2 tight ends on each end, like you're gonna need more guys and need more depth there at tight end. So I think there might be potential there if there's someone in the portal that fits his mold that he wants, that has good size. That's the only thing I was thinking as far as portal guys. It's definitely linebackers. It would be nice to get another edge or a defensive lineman, and then maybe tight end. That's kind of what my take on based on where the depth is at all the positional groups. Everything else, there's so much depth. Like even the offensive line, so much depth. We don't know who's going to be the starters yet, but there's so much depth there. So like everything else looks great depth wise besides those 3 units, I would say.
That's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice place to be, and I would say when we kind of go, I want to briefly go into like call it a few players because there's some people that deserve to be said here. Another major takeaway I got from the spring, and this was consistent every practice or scrimmage I went to throughout the spring. The receivers, because there's so much depth at receivers, and there's so much depth at the secondary. But there's also so much quality and consistency there at the top level. That competition was like epic this spring ball. Like they were going at it every game. Sometimes the secondary would have their day. Sometimes the wide receivers would have their day. But I'm telling you guys, I would say the majority of the time, honestly, the secondary did the best. This secondary is something else. They're attacking the ball. They're making picks consistently, taking the ball away. That's been incredible. And like I tried to say earlier, it's the freshmen and kind of the people that you weren't expecting to ball out. You have people in the secondary like KP Price. You have the true freshman Cunningham. You have Isaiah Ferris, right? You have those guys. Not even the usual suspects, which is because Amari Jackson's still not back yet. But you would think like people like Max Tucker and that. It's like, yeah, he is doing well, but it's these other guys, these younger guys that are stepping up. This secondary was one of the most surprises for me as far as not only the depth, but the like high level play that they've been able to work under. And then the call-outs for the wideouts that have been competing with these guys, and they've all had their day. VJ Wilkins, like I mentioned earlier, maybe the player of the spring ball besides the mind shaker. VJ Wilkins was just absolutely balling out consistently every practice, making multiple plays. He can do everything from outside the back, the backfield, the slot, in the end zone, back at punter, back at receive punter or kickoff. He was doing so many different things. He's going to be an incredible utility player. And then your guy Brett, I got to mention him, Reed Harris. So Reed Harris is just a professional out there. It's so crazy to think how much, like when we talked to him last year, like he was like maybe he'll be something else. Like people remember he was like the talk of spring last year, Brett.
Yeah.
And then of course we saw what he did and just like completely balled out during the regular season. Yeah. But he looks even bigger this year. He looks like more jacked. He just is so confident out there. He knows exactly what he's doing. Like in 1 year, he's now the veteran and like kind of teaching these guys and bringing these younger guys under his wing. So that's been really cool to see. Again, that competition between the secondary and receivers has been great. And then just a few call outs. Q Hutchins, like I mentioned, on the defensive line, he's been developing really well. Broom out of the backfield, he's back. Huge deal. Another person who's back, Amari Jackson. Not Amari Jackson. The wide receiver.
Jaden Skeet.
Yeah, Skeet. Thanks, Jack. Skeet's been really, really good as far as returning.
Really?
The thing is, last year he was the guy that was going to do all those out routes and those middle routes, and we missed him last year. So Lewis had to really step up his game and take over that. I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off Lewis Bond this year, having Skeet back, and that's going to be a significant boost to the depth of that wide receiver group. And then I mentioned Ty Lockwood, the tight end from Alabama, the transfer from Alabama. He's just been making beautiful catches, incredible. And then I'll wrap it up with the last guy, which I think is maybe might have the most impact compared to last year, and that's our punter, Irishman Andy Quinn. Guys, he's booming the ball every practice. His legs are jacked. He's a skinny kid up here. He looks like a skinny kid. Like you're like, he's not a punter, but you see his legs. He's completely jacked, booming the ball. He hits the ceiling like every punt. Like when you go into Fish Fieldhouse, is a pretty big place, but it's not big enough. I don't know why they designed it this way, but he's just booming the ball and hitting the ceiling every time. Even if he's just an average player, it's going to be great because he's clearly a power 4 punter.
Good.
We're going to win like 1 or 2 games compared to last year just based on that, So
because you're not turning the ball over you can
kick it more than
20 yard punts.
Exactly. So
the 12-yard special.
I'm telling you guys, those are the impact players. Those are the guys that kind of stood out. I'm missing a bunch, but I wanted to just kind of wrap it up on that. But again, overall, great spring ball. Lots to be happy about. Mostly, pretty much everything you're going to be happy about.
Is spring practice over now?
Yeah, last Saturday was the last day. So
Okay.
we won't be back till the summer ball. Summer ball probably like late August. August.
Early August or
Early
something.
August, something like that. Late July, early August.
Yeah. Well, good.
Sweet.
And then we got football transfer portal to look forward to, and some basketball off season to look forward to, I guess.
It's
I
gonna be
guess.
a long truck. I mean, we'll have news obviously on portal and then official visits. You'll see a lot more recruits coming in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, we'll have to. And also in 10 days the NFL draft. So Donovan
and Drew Kendall,
Ozzy will probably at some point be
Ozzy.
drafted. I think those three will be drafted, and then there's so many mock drafts that have Donovan in the first round, which that'll be exciting to see if we get another BC baller in the first round. Helps the brand.
Great for the brand.
Been a couple of years now, right? Oh, yeah. Zay. I always forget Zay.
Our boy Zay.
Yeah, but even that was a couple. Yeah, it's a couple of years.
It'll be big for the brand. It'll be nice.
Agreed.
Jack, you got some basketball stuff?
Not much, man. I mean, what's going on? Like Chaz is out, Deion's out, Beatles out, Eli's out, committed to South Carolina. So I guess they liked what they saw of him when they came to Conti.
Yeah.
Hand, Hastings, Fred Payne all made commitment videos that they're staying on the team, which is always good to see when you have to formally announce that you're not transferring. And then those two guys came in, Aiden Shaw from Mizzou, who actually, the numbers don't look great. I mean, it's kind of like what AJ was talking about. Like if a guy's mid at the Power 5 level, he's mid at the Power 5 level. The Mizzou fans seemed sad to see him go. They
did. Yes.
I kind of get the impression that he's like a super fun, athletic guy to watch. We'll see how helpful he is on BC. I mean, I don't know if he's a starter on this team.
He seems like a nice kid too, which
seems very nice.
Which is good.
Seems like a fan favorite, which is, it's good. It's good when you see that kind of reaction to a transfer that you get. Similar kind of vibes from the Butler kid, Bowden Kapke, I think his name is. Not quite as good, I think, as Shaw. They play the same position. They're both like a power forward center, kind of in between there. I think if you squint, you see James Connick. You squint, you see a guy like a big guy that can shoot a three.
Captain Canada.
Yeah, I don't know if I did see he played for Team USA in some international competition, so he's not Canadian, but
that's what Karnick was, though, right? Captain Canada.
Yeah, Karnick was Captain Canada. They did a whole feature on him for the ACC tournament.
That's awesome.
But it is interesting to me. They're also targeting this. They've been connected to this guy from Michigan. This forward. Let me find his name.
I saw that today.
Sam Walters. Stretch 4. So they're targeting bigs, which is, I guess, a correction from last year, but it seems like it might be an overcorrection because we're starting to get into no guard territory here, where we have Fred Payne on the roster, Donald Hand on the roster, and then Luca Taze is on the roster.
Luca, and Nick Petronio.
Who is the big guy that they got, Jack?
So they got Aiden Shaw from Missouri and Bowden Kapke from Butler.
So they have more size now, but are they?
Oh yeah, they have more size, but they haven't brought in any guards, and they haven't even really been connected to any guards in the. So
now we have size
and the size that they brought in hasn't been. They haven't got a lot of playing time. Yeah, like they haven't.
They're project guys. So you hope one of them hits, basically. I saw some highlights from Akbar Wahid. I think he's gonna be really good. I think he's cut from the Donald Hand cloth. Bigger guard that can slash, score, shoot.
I met his dad at the South Carolina game. Speaking of South Carolina.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
that's
very
cool.
Nice guy. Yep.
Nice guy. Good. Well, good for the program.
He was a coach here too.
What was that?
His dad was a assistant coach.
Yeah, that's right.
Christian, maybe.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm trying to get a number in my head. We definitely have a few roster spots to fill. It'll be interesting to see who or how they fill them. Because right at this point, in terms of basketball, the starters are all gone. Starters are gone. The 6 men are gone. You're getting to the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th men on the bench here. So
repeat ourselves again.
We'll see. I mean, wouldn't be surprised to see a JUCO pickup, trying to capture like a Jay-Z type of miracle, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think they'll be worse than last year because that'd be hard to be worse than last year. But I think I don't know. It's hard to predict that they'll be markedly better next year. So we'll see.
Not in the slightest bit better.
No, I mean you get Fred Payne sophomore season. Hopefully, a little jump there. You got Donald Hand coming back, productive guy. You got Hastings sophomore year. So you hope those 3 guys can be a bit of a nucleus for the team to depend on, and then the rest of the guys can kind of fill gaps.
Right.
But,
guys, we gotta talk about this because this program's such a disaster.
You mean we fucking suck?
Like this program's such a disaster that it's like we haven't talked since March Madness. So when I was watching March Madness, I'm looking at like a program. I think we texted about this, Jack. We look at a program like St. John's, right? That is very similar, like in a pro sports market.
That BC beat
Catholic school. Like
there you go.
Isn't in a Power 4 conference, by the way. But has very similar situation. Was able to in 2 years turn it completely around, right? Mm-hmm. Like obviously that wasn't just finding the right coach. Obviously it helps having a billionaire fronting all of that as well.
Doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Is that what's going to make this all possible to turn it around at this point for BC, where it's you have a billionaire alumni from BC that says, hey, I basically want to buy this team and turn it around, because it feels like it's that bad. And I don't see any other solution in this current landscape. Otherwise, you're going to, even if you say Grant develops these guys really well, they're just going to leave until you dramatically change, not just the team and the coach, but the entity funding it and everything. I don't know, that I wanted to kind of have that conversation because it was, it's such a dramatic difference with these programs that are successful and then where BC is. And it's not just the coach and it's not just the roster. It is the commitment and investment outside of that.
Sure. A couple of things there. I think generally speaking, if you want to look for a path for BC to follow down, it's not St. John's. St. John's they don't have a football program. They're in a basketball only conference. Basketball is the only thing that they're worried about. They have a basketball tradition, not a good one going back the last 20 years, but in the 80s, 90s, St. John's was a destination school for a lot of high-end basketball recruits. And then you bring in a guy like Pitino, billionaire, like you said. I don't think that's a realistic model for BC to kind of follow down. I think, it speaks to the landscape in general in that money talks, and that if you get investment, if you're willing to invest in a team, you'll get a good product. And I think that's where it stops. I think the better model to look at, I guess it's more recent, is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, very similar spot to BC in that they're in a Power 5 football conference. They're in the SEC. Mm-hmm. They historically have underperformed the past 10, 20 years, basketball and football. But this past year, it's been interesting. The athletic department made a really strong commitment. They made a really strong commitment to invest in a winning basketball team. So they basically started fresh. They bought Devin McLaughlin. They bought AJ Hawk. They bought all these guys.
Right.
And for a while it looks like it was working. They were in and out of the rankings. They got as high as 16. They kind of faltered towards the end of the season and ended as a 10 seed in March Madness. But I mean, it shows it's basically a 1 year turnaround. It's a team that BC crushed by 23 points, 2 seasons ago, and now they made a commitment to build up a basketball team, and they did that while having a Power 5 football team in the SEC, and they did that while being, an academically strong institution.
Yeah.
They did that while having not the biggest, student body or number of alumni. So I think that's kind of the model. It's not a proven model at all. I mean, this is a 10 seed in the tournament we're talking about. It's not a team that
that makes a lot more sense. That's way more comfortable. Yeah,
it's a team, or it's a model that BC needs to get to if they want to get beyond that, because you can't win. You can't be a Final Four contender without being in the conversation to make the tournament, and that's where Vanderbilt is. And I think it's where they should be for the next, for the foreseeable future, if they keep that same commitment. But I think that's where you want to look, at least in the short term, if you want to see a path for BC.
No, I totally agree. I mean, it shows you that it's possible, right? That you can be in a football, conference, and have to, split your thing. It comes down to Father. It probably does come down to Father Jack making these changes and trying to figure out, okay, how much I am investing. We had this conversation last time. How much are we investing in football? Are we going all in on football and forgetting basketball? Or are we going to if you're going to invest in basketball, are you going to actually do it the right way and invest, enough where we can do this? And these are not only, the thing is right now with the college landscape, though, is not only is Father Jack going to have to make these decisions, with the NCAA decision coming down in California about the potential $20 million cap, and like the schools being able to pay that out, that's going to be another conversation for BC. Like, hey, if we're spending $20 million a year, how much is going to football? How much is going to basketball? So we can compete. So yeah, it's going to be interesting next 2 or 3, 4 years, but like it does seem like all or nothing right now, where if you don't invest now, you're potentially just losing. You've pretty much lost the fan base already, but you're gonna potentially lose like the program and like a lot of different things that come along with that. So I don't know. It is pretty dire right now.
I know it is dire, and I will say the one aspect where the Vanderbilt situation differs from the BC situation is that Vanderbilt's in the SEC. They're in an established football conference where they're not dominating the SEC, but they beat Alabama last year. They
got that good football money too. They got the good.
Yeah, they do. They're kind of along the same lines in BC in football, but they're in the SEC, not the ACC. So they're in a less precarious spot in terms of realignment and their future as an institution, not just as a football program or a basketball program. So that's just another.
Right, it's even more dire for BC. Because
that's like another thing for that the BC administration has to consider that Vanderbilt doesn't have to worry about. Whereas, that decision for BC might come down to fully committing to football. Whereas with Vanderbilt, they have the option to, spread their resources as they see fit.
It's kind of crazy.
So I think,
it's kind of crazy.
I don't know what they're going to do here. So
when you look at just at Vanderbilt, like as an example, when you look at the SEC and how many teams they had in March Madness, you can tell
they have 14 out of 16. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Clearly a result though from the football influence. Like you have all this football money, they have all this money to then invest into the basketball program and to take a lot of these Power 4 players from the ACC, from maybe even the Big Ten or the Big East or all that, and bring them there. Like you've seen this transfer of power to the SEC, to these football programs, football conferences. Like you said, 14 out of 16 teams is insane. So like, it is a crazy world right now. And then for BC to be in the lesser football conference and the one that's more unstable, it makes this thing even more dire. When you look at the more you zoom in or out, it's not good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really think it's bleak, but like really the best you can hope for is just that you know, like that they can keep the talent in the program and try to build something that way. Because I mean, if I had to predict, I wouldn't bet on any sort of crazy influx of capital into the basketball program. I mean, they just did that with the new practice complex, which is beautiful, by the way. But I mean, their BC as an institution is in a kind of a precarious spot in terms of the future of the conference and where they're going to go. And the best chance to navigate that is to have a really strong football program. Like, you know, that's just how it is.
Yeah. Like we've
So
seen.
it sucks for basketball long-term speaking, but I mean, if BC can get more solid footing in the next couple of years, maybe they get to a point where they can feel more comfortable, you know, spreading the wealth a little bit, if that wealth is to come their way.
Yeah.
If everything falls the way that they want it to fall. But
let's just get them to compete again. Like, let's just win a couple more games so we can be in the ACC tournament at least. Like, come on. Like,
that's a bar that
step, right?
that they need to need to achieve. I do wonder what because clearly switching gears a bit to a little bit more within the program. I do wonder what, because it's pretty clear that there were conversations about Earl's future. I mean, they'd be foolish, they'd be stupid to not have that conversation.
Of course, yeah.
When they talk to the media, i.e. me, about it in press conferences, they made it seem like all is jolly and good, and Earl Grant is. But you know, we're not dumb. We know that those conversations are happening when you're 4-16 in the conference. So I do wonder what the if there's a number
for next year.
Number like in terms if they got to win 7 conference games, or if they got to get top 10 in the ACC. I wonder what that number is, and I wonder how achievable it is, or if they're just kind of setting up Earl for.
Yeah, I'm interested
just
in
so
that
they
too,
can fire him.
Wasn't there rumors about this year being like if he doesn't make the ACC tournament, he's gone? Like,
there
was this
year. Rumors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, nothing. I have no inside sources or anything, but there's chat. I can tell you, I'm plugged in enough online that I can see chatter, and you know, it's all very believable for a guy in year 4 has shown growth with a talented roster for 3 years, but then, you know, doesn't seem to learn from his coaching mistakes. You know,
I think the thing
there's got to be a number, and I wonder how achievable it is for Earl next year.
Yeah. I think the most brutal thing from him is obviously, besides the in-game coaching, is every year you lose your entire starting 5, and that's just like, well, for me, it's like that reeks of not just even. Obviously, it reeks like, okay, can this coach not manage team? But also, is he not getting the support? Like, how much? Like, there just seems to show so much issues within the program, maybe even at the administrative level of, well, if you're consistently losing your starting 5 and have to rebuild every year, how are you going to, like, how is that attractive? How are you even going to get a coach to come here if that's the situation? But
yeah, I mean, I do want to push back a little bit there, because 2024, like last off season, was total. It was abhorrent, like the way that team fell apart. But it's not. I don't think it was totally unpredictable, given the state of BC with, like, in terms of resources and, you know,
and the newness of NIL, transfer portal.
And, you know, the only thing that I've heard from inside the program is from Mason Matson's vlogs, where he said, you know, this wasn't Earl's fault. But then, like,
right.
You hear that Jay-Z and Glock wanted to come back, and, you know, Earl went in a different direction, or tried to call their bluff in terms of the money they're asking for. So, I mean, you hear different things. I do look at, you know, QP chose to stay. Jay-Z chose to stay the year or two before. This year, Donald Hand, Fred Payne, Jaden Hastings all chose the three only bright spots on the team, in my opinion. Like, I think those are the 3. I'd be fine losing anyone on the team from last year, I think, other than Fred Payne, Donald Hand, Jaden Hastings. Yeah. So I mean, he brought I do think that Earl Stokes I do feel like if nothing else, I think he develops some level of commitment from his guys. I mean, it's hard to say that in the face of last year's offseason, but I think he does. If nothing else, the guys within the locker room do have some sort of commitment to him. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean,
to end it on a
coaching decisions alone are enough for for that conversation
we know
we had.
The in-game coaching is obviously horrific, but I guess to end it on a positive note, because he has proven like he can, I guess, to a better extent, manage somewhat and develop and stuff. So, when you talk about bringing these other big men in, do you have like a pretty good confidence of him being able to develop these guys? And then, as far as going next year, to kind of cap this conversation off, do you see them realistically, like the benchmarks being like make the ACC tournament and win, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 games in the ACC? Like, what is your benchmark there? And then, do you still have confidence in Grant being able to develop these like guys, especially the big guys coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I think their big men will be in a much better place this year. They're in a much better place this year because last year you had Chad Venning, was great. I do take it back about Chad Venning was a bright spot in some ways last year.
Yeah,
sure. Chad Venning was great. Yeah. Jaden Hastings was very raw his first year competition, but he came on a bit the last third of the season. But then you had Elijah Strong, who had a strong out of conference, kind of in and out of relevancy in the conference. And then you had Connie Tachanda, who was a freshman, didn't play. When he did play, he was terrible. I think, I don't think either of these two transfers are going to be. They're not going to
impact
games. They're not going to take you from 4 games to 4 ACC wins to 10. But I think it puts your front court in a place that you can at least you're not game in game out, hopelessly overmatched where you're putting Roger McFarland on Cooper Flagg for a whole game. So I think I'm slightly bullish on the state of the front court and that they'll be better next year. They're 2 guys that play rotation minutes in the Power 5. So I think they'll find spots. I think Earl's track record with big men, with QP, Devin McLaughlin, seemingly Jaden Hastings, fingers crossed. But I think he'll get a lot out of those guys, and I think that might be more Jim Molinari than him. But I do think that we'll get something out of those guys. In terms of the guards, I mean, you have Fred Payne, Donald Hand, Akbar Wahid, who's coming in as a true freshman. Beyond that, I don't have a huge confidence in anybody to really be able to run an offense. Yeah. Luka Taze, I mean, he showed flashes on their West Coast trip this year, but I think he had a stretch where he was like 1 for 30 from the field. He's not going to be ready next year. Maybe 2 years down the line, but who knows? So they're definitely going to need another guard or 2 in the transfer portal to run an offense, to at least run an offense. But
it's just so I think for me, it's just so frustrating because we're talking about basketball here. It's not like football where, like I just talked about, you need every position to have depth to compete, right? It's like for basketball, it's like can we get you could turn this thing around with like a starting 5, and how we can't get a Power 4 starting 5 to come to Boston College, the only Power 5, the only Power 4 school in this area. It's just. Yeah, I guess for me it's just crazy.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not. Right. Don't hold your breath this year because like I said, all those guys are gone in the portal right now. But I don't know. I think if I had to put a prediction on conference wins right now, I'd say 6 or 7 is around my benchmark, and I think that. You got me?
I think I lost you a second, Jack. You got
it? Yeah. Do you got me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been in and out. I want to wrap this thing up, but my last thing about basketball. I think I do think they're going to be have slightly more talent this year in that they have those big three of Payne, Hand, Hastings staying. They're bringing in front court depth. TBD about really having a true point guard on the team to run the offense. But if I had to guess, just generally, I put the number at 6 or 7 ACC wins, which hopefully gets him in the ACC tournament, but which I think will get Earl fired. That's just kind of my general prediction for the season. I don't want to harp on it anymore. We've been talking about a bad basketball team for about 30 minutes. Two of us. So I think that's where I'll leave it. A couple other things I had on the agenda. Baseball, not to get too down the dumps, baseball stinks. I think they won its series against Notre Dame. I think they're not doing well in the ACC.
I like their uniforms, though. Great uniforms.
Yeah, they have sick uniforms, sick logos. But that's about where I'm going to stop the praise. So that's where I'll stop talking about them because I don't want to go too in depth into baseball.
Same.
Women's lax ended on a positive note. Yeah. They finally lost a game to a road game to number 2 UNC. So
yeah.
I guess.
Wait, funny thing about that, Jack, is I was at the spring practice when that was going on, and it was like a back and forth game, and I just remember thinking like, I never root against BC, but I kind of was like, a loss here would be strategically good for this team because like
it's one of those things where it's like I don't want us to get too
but it's like a loss.
I don't want them to get too high in the clouds. Yeah,
right. And then you saw this last Saturday where they like dominated again. It's like okay, did that like help them regroup themselves to like go into the playoffs?
You. I mean,
exactly. But
it's such a privileged place to be where you're like, totally. I wouldn't hate a loss here. That's you know what? It's exactly how I felt this year watching the Eagles because like they start 2-2, they win 10 straight, and they're playing the Commanders, and they go back and forth. They end up losing the game on the last second, and my main takeaway from that game was like, I don't hate a loss going to the playoffs, So it's like
right before the tournament, right? Like
so it's like that's kind of. Yeah, that's kind of where we are with the women's lax. So
even BC hockey, when we're like losing the Hockey East tournament, I was like, okay, you know what? Now we can go to the NCAAs. And I was still looking at it positively.
Yeah,
but
I thought that more about the UMass loss a few weeks prior than the Hockey East tournament loss. But I see where you're coming from. So I think in that same vein, women's lax losing a road game to the second best team in the country with it's not the worst thing in the world, and I think they're still in good shape.
Word.
So yeah. Anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap this up?
No, we'll wrap this up, Jack. Lax is great. We don't want to even talk about people or basketball anymore. Football. We'll keep you updated. Our next podcast will keep you updated on the recruiting and the official visits and all of that and again. So positive, so much upside on this team. We finally have a quarterback room. Incredible situation for us to be in. Fortunately, we're so far away from opening day, that Fordham game in the end of August, but it's going to be exciting time. So follow us. Brett fell off here. We had technical difficulties, but follow us, eaglesdaily.com for the podcast, eaglesweekly.com. Of course, you can please subscribe and click that notification bell on YouTube. I'd say, Jack, this was great. And always nice seeing you. And we'll try to hop on next week so it's not Eagles Monthly,
Yeah, exactly. It's good to be back. So, but keep it. Let's try to get back to Eagles Weekly. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. Go Eagles.
Go Eagles.